Sheila Banks here with another video. This one is entitled In Light of the Most High, and it is based on a blog post that can be found at mysticbeastblog.blogspot.com. These days it is difficult to know what to believe. The evil rulers of this world will do anything to keep their narratives going. Consequently, all kinds of psychological operations are being used to keep us confused and frightened. Our controllers hope to capitalize on the chaos in our minds. They want to steer humanity down a path towards self-destruction. These creatures pulling the strings can't help themselves. After all, psychopaths are predatory. Nevertheless, so much is being revealed by honest, open-minded researchers who are looking into what the evidence is actually telling us. And more people are realizing what we have been led to believe about our human predicament is blatantly false. We will need to update our basic assumptions and knowledge about our history, science, geography, religion, and so much more. And that means we're in for a paradigm shift. A true paradigm shift is more than an insight with staying power. This kind of shift works to transform and fine-tune Homo sapiens' conscious awareness for a more accurate perception of physical reality. But these days, we even have to question the existence of a physical reality. Advances in science point to the fact that the material world is not made up of grit, but is a reflection of the underlying metaphysical dimension from which it has been generated. I can attest to this because of what I observed on February 14th, 1997, during an out-of-body experience that culminated in a mystical union. The material realm around me seemed to disintegrate into a sea of particles and then into a misty ether. I passed through some kind of threshold that delineates the material world and separates it from the metaphysical. At the time, Plato's view of how the one manifests the many immediately came to mind. I could see he was onto something with his notion of forms in the material realm reflecting archetypes in the universal mind. My spiritual awakening convinced me that I exist in this misty ether, and the ether exists in me. Somehow the Almighty is converting an all-pervasive ether into particles that personify an ongoing material world. And I was shocked to find in the Gospel of Thomas a Jesus who knew this. From the light that we have come, from the place where light of its own accord alone came into existence and stood at rest. I am convinced Jesus saw the ethereal light I saw during that mystical union, and he came to the same conclusion. The kingdom is inside of you and outside of you. And according to Jesus, that makes you and I children of the living Father. More of us are cluing into what mystics have been saying for millennia. The material world is not made up of the matter we thought. Our reality truly has no mass. So any incoming paradigm must incorporate this fact. It is likely then that mysticism will be a big part of humanity's destiny. As with everything these days, the real definition of mysticism has been distorted and twisted, and there seems to be a concerted effort to associate mysticism with the occult and activities of secret societies. What's the deal with that? Mysticism, according to Richard H. Jones in his book, Philosophy of Mysticism, is the inner quest to empty the mind of conceptualizations in order to become directly aware of reality. The objective is to step outside one's own subjective frame of reference. By freeing experience from self-centered interests, we get to enhance our awareness. With ego no longer driving perception, we can tune into the transcendent reality of beingness behind the appearance of the phenomenal world. Mystics have accomplished this in varying degrees, and some have become intimately acquainted with this ultimate creator, eminent in all. Rather, it is the Father living in me who is doing his work, declared Jesus. To account for this illusionary nature of our material world, it has been proposed that we exist in a simulation. Simulation, as defined by dictionary.com, is a representation of the behavior or characteristics of one system through the use of another. Is this not what is happening? The Almighty behind the curtain is the eternal system, and its expression results in another system, the emergent universe of which we are a part. It is as if a divine playwright has us as characters on a stage, playing out scripts already written in the stars. It looks like Jesus thought so. In John 4, verse 26, we see a Jesus who claims to be the Messiah prophesied about. In Matthew 13, verse 14, Christ views himself as materializing to fulfill specific predictions made by the prophet Isaiah. In John 9, verses 1 to 4, when he encounters a blind man to be healed, Jesus frames the healing session in terms of fate. But it happened so the works of God might be displayed in him. I must do the works of him who sent me while it is day. As to the objective of the simulation we find ourselves in, the Lord's Prayer offers up a hint. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven, prayed Jesus. The Almighty is to be recognized as the foundation of all creation of which we are a part. The goal is to become an instrument for the Creator. By aligning one's own will with the will of God, the Father living in us can also do his work through us. The problem is the simulation has been hijacked. Some think the culprit is what the Gnostics call archons, and some like to think it is the work of the devil. But what I see is evil controllers of this world acting in their psychopathic ways. They prefer we not become acquainted with the Creator Almighty residing within our own being. This evolutionary leap in human consciousness would result in their demise. So, they work to keep our species traumatized and hustling to survive. They want us to remain focused on the material world. And you can bet they even try to use this idea of an illusory phenomenal world to their advantage. What better way to promote apathy in the masses than to have them believe the world is merely an illusion or dream? Is this the reason I am now seeing videos come up in my feed with titles like "The universe doesn't exist" and "Your brain doesn't exist"? The phenomenal world may not be made up of the solid grit we thought. However, we are reminded in Jones's book on mysticism that there is still something we have to account for. As this stated worldview of materiality passes away, our need to function does not. It is not enough to recognize that you are spirit inhabiting a material realm that is basically a mirage. For now, I will stick with René Descartes' take, I think, therefore I am. This approach does not encourage confusion and chaotic thinking. Instead, it begs the question, how am I to be then? Having been created by the Almighty, you are one of his creations. In other words, you are a creature in this simulation. Again, in the book of Thomas the Contender, we see a Jesus who knows this. For the body is a domestic animal, he declared. He also provided us with a hint as to how we should be. Therefore, you must go about perfecting yourself, instructed Jesus. Self-improvement is the way to experience a psychological liberation, one that begins our ascent from the animal to a spiritual mode of existence. And for those humble enough to work on self-actualization, like Jesus, they too can encounter within the light of the Most High God.